Joe won $4 million playing the lottery. 2 years later, he's back in a one-bedroom apartment, his truck's been repossessed, and his sister isn't speaking to him. This isn't a story about bad luck. It's about the one decision Joe never made. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly what it was and exactly when it was still possible to fix it. The morning after the numbers are confirmed, Joe doesn't sleep. He sits on the edge of his bed at 4 a.m., just staring at his phone, refreshing the confirmation email like it might disappear. By 9 a.m., he's already called his boss and quit, on speakerphone, in front of his roommate, laughing the whole time. By that afternoon, he's standing in a dealership, signing for a truck he hasn't even test-driven. By the end of the week, he's paid off his mother's mortgage in full. It feels incredible. It feels like every problem he's ever had just evaporated at once. Here's what nobody tells you about a windfall this size. The requests start almost immediately, and they don't stop. Within the first month, 14 different people in Joe's life ask him for money. Cousins he hasn't spoken to in years, a childhood friend's can't-miss business idea, a coworker's medical bill. Joe says yes to every single one. Not because he's careless, because saying no to $4 million feels absurd. What's $20,000 when you have $4 million? That's the exact question that ends up costing him everything, because he asks it 14 separate times, and never once does the math on what all 14 add up to. So let's say that again, because it matters. Joe didn't lose his money to one bad decision. He lost it to dozens of small ones that each felt harmless in isolation. And here's the part that makes this so common, it has an actual name in financial psychology. Researchers call it sudden wealth syndrome, and the pattern shows up again and again in people who receive large windfalls with no prior experience managing money at that scale. The stakes aren't just Joe might run out of cash. The stakes are that once the money's gone, everyone who got used to Joe having it, the family, the friends, the lifestyle, doesn't just quietly go back to normal. It gets ugly. This is where Joe's sister Mia comes in. She works in accounting. She's the one person in Joe's life who actually understands what $4 million can and can't survive. Her intention from week one is simple. Get Joe to lock away at least half of it before he touches another dollar. Her obstacle is Joe himself. Every time she brings it up, he tells her the same thing. There's still plenty left. He says it after the truck. He says it after the house upgrade. He says it after loan number 9. He's still saying it after loan number 14. Later in this video, we'll get to the exact conversation where Mia finally realizes it's too late, and what Joe says back to her when she does. Here's why "there's still plenty left" is such a dangerous sentence. And it's not really about Joe being irresponsible. It's about how human brains process large numbers. A $60,000 truck feels almost weightless next to $4 million. So does a $30,000 loan to a cousin. So does a $20,000 sure thing investment. Each individual decision genuinely does feel small. The problem is that small isn't a fixed amount. It's a feeling, and that feeling doesn't shrink as the total balance does. Joe's brain was still treating decisions like they cost almost nothing, right up until the moment there was nothing left to spend. And this isn't just Joe's story. It's a documented pattern. Multiple studies on sudden wealth recipients have found a large share of big lottery winners report being broke again within just a few years of their win, not decades. Even more surprising, winning the lottery doesn't reliably make people happier long term. Some research has found sudden wealth winners reporting worse financial stress a few years out than they had before they ever won, because the lifestyle expands to match the money almost instantly. And once the money's gone, the expectations, the relationships, and the lifestyle that formed around it don't disappear with it. Here's the part that changes how you should think about this whole story. This outcome isn't inevitable. It's not a law of nature that lottery winners lose everything. It's a pattern that shows up specifically when winners skip a few very specific steps. The winners who actually keep their money long term almost universally do 3 things Joe never did. They tell almost nobody outside their immediate household. They hire a financial advisor before spending a single dollar of it. Not after the spending spree, before. And they set themselves a mandatory waiting period, often a full year, before making any purchase over a certain size. Not because the money isn't real, because the brain needs time to recalibrate what small actually means at this new scale. Which brings us back to Mia. The conversation happens almost exactly 2 years after Joe's win. He calls her, and for the first time, he's not asking her to celebrate something. He's asking to borrow money. Real money, not a small loan. Enough to cover next month's rent. Mia doesn't yell. She just asks him one question. Do you remember the first time I asked you to put half of it away? Joe does remember. He remembers every single conversation where she tried to warn him. And he remembers giving her the same answer every time. He just never once thought plenty left would eventually become nothing left. Because from the inside, every single decision along the way felt completely reasonable. So here's the actual answer to what happened to Joe's $4 million. It wasn't taxes, it wasn't a scam, it wasn't even really the truck or the house or any single loan. It was 14 decisions that each felt too small to matter, made by a brain that was never built to correctly judge the size of a number that large, combined with total silence from the one person who saw it coming. The lottery didn't ruin Joe's life. The absence of a single boring, unglamorous plan did. And that's the part that should actually unsettle you. Because the version of Joe who loses everything and the version who keeps it don't actually make different choices about the big stuff. They make different choices about the small stuff, 14 times in a row, before anyone else even notices there's a pattern at all.